Today, inshallah, we are gonna learn much more about the triangle. And the word triangle, you'll find it just, you can divide it into two parts. The first part, tri, which means three, and the angles, which means that we get here three angles. And you'll find the triangle is the smallest polygon, which consists of three sides, three verses, three angles. And as you know that the number of angles are always equal to the number of verses equal to the number of sides. So let's get started with the classification of the triangle. We got here two classification, and you can classify the triangle according to two ways. The first way, it will be according to their angles. And as you know that from the previous video, we have learned that we get here three main angles. The first one will be acute, the next one it will be right, and the third one it will be obtuse angle. So if we get here acute like this, which means that it's going to be more than 0 and less than 90, and you'll find the right exactly 90, and you can identify it by using a little square like this. What about the obtuse angle? Obtuse angle, it will be like this. So we get here three angles. So what happens if I'm gonna draw the third angle like this? The third angle like this. Okay, the third side like this. I'm sorry. Third side like this, and the third side like this. So this is called acute. The first one, it will be acute angle triangle. The next one, it will be right angle triangle, and the third one, it will be obtuse angle triangle. So you have to ask yourself, how can I classify the triangle? So if we get here the first angle equal to 60 degrees, the third one it will be 70, and the second one will be 70, and the third one it will be 50. And you might be asking yourself, how can I classify the triangle according to their angles? So number one, you have to determine which one is the greatest angle right over here. So we get here 70. The 70 is what is the type of the 70? You'll find 70 is an acute, which means that this triangle is going to be acute angle triangle. Acute angle triangle. What if we have here another thing like 70 degrees, and 40? So you have to determine which angle of these three angles which are in front of you is the greatest, and you find 70. Each one of them, I don't care. So 70 is an acute, which means that all the triangle, it will be an acute angle triangle. And you might be noticing that in each time, if you try to add up all the angles together, you will get to 180, which means that no matter the triangle, it will be an acute angle, a right angle, or obtuse angle. All of them, that if you try to add up all of them together, you will get to 180. So the sum of measure of interior angle of the triangle, of interior angle of any triangle equal to 180. So let's move to another point. What about the right? If you get here the first one equal to 30 degrees, the next one will be 60, and third one it will be 90. If you want to classify this triangle, it's going to be right angle triangle. So you have to determine which one is the greatest. You will find 90 is the greatest one here, and the type of the triangle, it will be right, because the 90 is right. So this is going to be a right angle triangle. What about the next one? If we get here 45 degree, and the third, it will be 90. It will be the same thing. It will be right, because the greatest one here is 90, and as you know that 90 is right, so it's going to be right angled triangle. And you'll find it just like this, and you can identify it by using a little square like this, which means that it's going to be right angle triangle. What about the third, obtuse angle? You'll find obtuse angle got angle more than 90, which means that if we got here 100 degree and 30, 50. if you try to add up all of them to get all of these angles together, you will get 180 by the way, which means that you have to determine which one is the greatest. You will find 100, which means that it's going to be obtuse angle triangle. What if we have here 150, 10, and 20? What about the greatest angle? You'll find the greatest angle right over here. It will be 150. And I'm gonna give you a hint right here. Any triangle has at least two acute angle. So let me review it. So the first one here, it will be acute. The next one, it will be acute. The third one, it will be acute. So you might have three acute angle. It's not a big deal. But in the next section, we get the first one, it will be acute. The next one will be acute, but the third, it will be right. So any triangle, at least we get two acute angle. What about the third? If it will be obtuse. The first one, it will be obtuse. Acute, which means that it must contain two acute angle. What about the second classification? If you are going to classify the triangle according to their sides, the first thing, it's going to be equilateral. The next one, it will be isosceles, and the next one, it will be scalene triangle. So what about the equilateral triangle, which means that all sides are equal? If we have here the first one, it will be 3. The next one, it will be 3. The third one, it will be 3 as well. What about if we get here something like this? We get here the name of XYZ, and we got labels. We don't have, by the way, length, but we got labels like this. These labels which are in front of you, which mean that XY equal to XZ equal to YZ, which means that it's going to be an equilateral triangle. What if we have here a special case like this? The first one, it will be 60 degrees. The next one, it will be 60. The third one, it will be 60, which means that all angles equal in measure. All of them have the measure equal to 60, which means that it will be the same thing. It's going to be an equilateral triangle. If you're trying to add up all these angles together, you will get to 180, which means that it's going to be an equilateral triangle. So equilateral triangle, which means that all the sides are equal in length. What about the isosceles triangle? If we get just two sides are equal in length, which means that it's going to be isosceles triangles. Let me draw triangle like this. The first one, it will be 6. The next one, it will be 6. The third one, it will be 7 centimeter. I'm gonna call it LMN. The triangle which is in front of you right now, LMN, I think it meets up our constraint, which means that we got two sides are equal in length. The first one, it will be 6. The next one, it will be 6, which means that we got two sides are equal in length. So it's going to be isosceles triangle. What about the next one? If you don't have, by the way, XYZ, but by the way, we don't have right here, we don't have length of each of any sides, but we get label like this, which means that XY equal to XZ. We get here two sides are equal in length, which means it will be the same thing. We got two sides are equal in length, so it will be isosceles triangle. What if we have here that the third one, it will be scalene triangle, which means that we get here the first one, it will be 3, 4, and 5. And I think you have noted that all the sides are totally different from each other. We don't have two equal sides, or we don't have all the sides are equal, which means that it's going to be scalene triangle. What if we have another thing like this? The first one will be 10, 8, and 9. So it will be the same thing. It's going to be scalene triangle. So let's move to another point. Here we got here an arbitrary triangle like X, Y, Z. So the first one is equal to 60. The next one it will be 70. And right over here, he asks you to tell him find the measure of angle Z. So what should I do right now? So right here, he asks you, or he requires from you to get the missing angle. And as I told you, if you're trying to add up all these sides together, you will, all these angles together, you will get to 180, which means that if you try to get the measure of angle X plus the measure of angle Y plus the measure of angle Z, you will get to 180. No matter the triangle, it's going to be equilateral, isosceles, or scaling, acute angle, right angle, obtuse angle, all of them equal to 180. So if you want to get the measure of angle Z, so you have to subtract the sum of these two angles from 180. So it will be 180 minus 60 plus 70. So it will be 180 minus 130. So it's going to be 50. So let me give you another example. If we get here something like this, let me remind you, we got here two angles. The first angle, Z equal to 30, and the next one, which is drawn with the letter square, equal to right. It's going to be 90. You have to remember it. So if you want to get the measure of angle X, so it will be 180 minus 30 plus 90, so it's going to be 180 minus the sum of 30 plus 90, it will be 120, so it's going to be 60. So the measure of angle X equal to 60. What if we get here something like this? So we get here obtuse angle triangle. By the way, we get the first one equal to 30 and the next one equal to 50. I want to figure out the measure of the angle Z. So if you want to figure out the measure of angle Z, so you have to subtract the sum of the two angles X and Y from 180. So it will be 180 minus, you have to open up a bracket like this, so it will be 50 plus 30. So it will be 180 minus 80, so it's going to be 100. That's all.